Welcome back. This is now episode 3 of my series, Asperger Insights. Once again, I'm Likens, Autism Ambassador for Easter Seals Midwest, also author of the book Finding Kansas. And before we get to the third most important statement, in my opinion, about the autism spectrum you need to know, we have to go back to last week because I was in the middle of telling you a story about the AMA Supercross series when they came to St. Louis for the second time. The first year we went, I had film theory, which, remember last week's statement number 4 was whatever happens first always has to happen. First year we went to the race, I wanted food, prices were kind of too high, so my dad said no. 1 year later, we go to the same race, I ask for food, he sees the prices, he says no again, and unlike the first year, this time he didn't say we would eat at the diner. However, I knew we were, and there was a trap I fell into that night. And this is probably the statement going to be the title of my second book. And the statement is, I think, therefore you should know. If I think it, if I know it, if I remember it, if I'm expecting it, you do too. Which means this, as we drove home, the diner was on our natural way home. So as we got near the diner, I didn't hear my dad's turn signal come on as we got to the entrance, and that's important because I am a rule stickler. Every rule needs to be followed exactly so. It was probably really cute when I was 8 and I let my dad know every traffic law he ever broke. I still do it. I am not a good passenger at all, but there went the diner, and I turned to my dad so confused, and I said, Dad, diner. Well, we turned around, ate at that diner every year since. Up until April 2011, I was in Joplin, Missouri giving a presentation. So if you were one of those 40 people at that presentation, you know, that was a train wreck of public presenting. I needed tissues, and in my presentation, I talked about this for 45 minutes. So let's just say, be thankful time has moved on and you weren't at that presentation. To add another example to I think, therefore you should know, this next part applies to what happened to me in the classroom, which I know I've talked to so many teachers that struggle with this. Because when I was in school, if I struggled with a subject, and for me in school, I either got something instantly or I struggled with it. There was no middle ground. I either picked it up or it was impossible for me to really get in a timely manner. But there was a problem to that. Because I think, therefore you should know, that meant if I knew I needed help, that meant the teacher knew I needed help. So I would never ask for help. I would never say, I don't understand. So it was a real guessing game for my teachers to know if I actually got something or not, because I wouldn't ask for help. Because again, if I knew it, she knew it, and if she wasn't helping me, that meant, well, I needed to try harder. I was doing it wrong, or maybe she didn't want to help me. My second and fourth grade teachers were awesome on this. They somehow, and I wasn't diagnosed at that point in time, but they somehow knew when I needed help without me asking. I don't know how they picked it up. I don't know what type of superpowers they had, but they were 2 of my greatest teachers I had. But for the other teachers, it had to be so confusing because sometimes I'd get it instantly. Other times I wouldn't, but they would never know it because I wouldn't speak up about it. So this concept, this statement of I think, therefore you should know, has more ramifications than just the times we went to the Supercross series. When I was younger, really young, and it was breakfast time, my family, we always had 8, 9, 10 boxes of cereal, and I always knew what I wanted, but there was a problem. I really couldn't ask for it, so it was a daily game of my dad saying, well, do you want this? And I'd say no. Well, do you want that? I'd say no. And I got so frustrated that after about the 4th or 5th box, I started having a tone. It sounded like I had an attitude. I'd say, no. Well, here's what was going on. Since I knew what I wanted, that meant my dad knew what I wanted. But since he wasn't offering it, that meant what I wanted was the wrong choice. Now, it may have seemed like I was on some sort of power trip, but I couldn't understand that because I knew it. That didn't mean he knew it. Let's take this concept right now. Right now, you are seeing me from this angle. You have no idea what's on the other side of the camera. And for me, it is so hard to envision that because I can see something. I figure everybody sees it or experiences it the same way. Having that thought of you aren't me it doesn't come naturally. It isn't simply there. I can be telling a story sometimes, and whoever I'm telling it to has to go, whoa, Aaron, whoa, whoa. What are you talking about? So often I'll start the story in the middle because since I know the beginning, you know the beginning, so I really don't have to tell you what it is. So that has been statement number 3 of I think, therefore you should know, which this one is critical, and just like last week's line, this line leads into next week's statement, and next week is we go to the second most important statement. It's an important one, might be my longest statement, my longest video, so you'll want to tune into that as we get into the real nuts and bolts of how social interactions can go so wrong so fast. Until then, once again, I'm Aaron Likens. Thanks for watching. Means so much to me. Again, if you like what you saw, subscribe to my channel or follow me on Facebook to get updates of when the next video comes out or when I blog and update my blog. So until then, once again, thanks for watching.